Good evening, everybody at home. Welcome to another Whisky Wednesday. I'm, of course, Dean Jode, head of Whisky for Murray McDavid. I nearly forgot then. Christ, what am I doing? Who am I? One of those days. One of those days. Good Lord, there is so much to catch up with you guys about. So you might actually, for this evening's Whisky Wednesday, you might want to consider pouring just a little bit of a larger dram to get us through this week's Whisky Wednesday chat. Because of course I wasn't broadcasting last Wednesday. I was this time last week I would have been. I think probably just landing actually at Bristol Airport from Inverness, then hopping on the train up from Bristol to Cheltenham, where I'm broadcasting to you today. What a funny start! What a funny start to the Whisky Wednesday. As I say, it's been quite the day. Lots of plates spinning. And I promise you, this is my first whiskey of the day, and well earned. And actually, what I've got in my glass this evening isn't yet a bottled product. This is a if you're a follower of mine on Instagram, then you would have seen a few posts relating to some blending projects that we have coming down the line. Not for Murray McDavid actually, but this whiskey will hopefully be the selection that will go into a new product, an unreleased product currently, that will sit in this stable of ACO spirits. It's a blended malt, so in the glass here, just single malts coming together. It's presented in the glass natural color. And the color that you're seeing within the glass there, I've actually been really experimenting with different finishing cask compositions of this blend. And the cask influences that we're attributing to this project: first fill Oloroso, little bit of first fill bourbon to bring in some sweetness there. We have some second fill Madeira wine barriques. We have a couple of ex-Islay casks in there. So without speaking about the spirit itself, you can already see the layers of flavor developing just from the wood influences alone. I'm not going to divulge at this point in time what the spirits are, because that might start to give away a little bit too much information about the project. And you at home know how much or how well I give too much information away. So zipping, I've given you the cask composition for this particular for this particular blended malt, which actually is just in the sampling stage at the moment. We've disseminated samples to our tasting panels, who those folks will have a little sample to assess in a blind tasting format. So they've got a carefully coded label on a little sample bottle, and they'll send back their reports to me hopefully in the next week, so we can progress the NPD, the new product development. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that's going to be in bottle by the end of the year, and we'll be launching lots of promotion around this product. I've just realized I've got a what do you call it, a photo bomber. It's my plant that's growing. I would love to say it's because of the splendid summer we're having, but actually down in Gloucestershire here, it's been grey for the past week. Yeah, quite a disappointing summer down south, but I am holding firm for a lovely, bright, warm, sunny August, and those Septembers with those late summer evenings out on a terrace somewhere with a dram. Come on, September's our month. I can feel it. But so, ladies and gents, I hope you've got a nice whiskey in your glass. Let us know in the chat what you're drinking tonight. I'd love to know. Liv, of course, is in the background, monitoring all comments and other things going on, whatever goes on in that comment section. She'll be forwarding on, and hopefully I can pick up those questions that come to the bottom of my screen and hopefully give you a nice, short, concise answer. Looks 3D, Dean. Wow, crikey! You're going to blow my mind. I hope I'm 3D. You might not have tuned into the start of this stream, but I was in a bit of a funny space because of the goings-ons of today. It's been an action-packed day in the world of Head of Whisky creations. Not just for Murray McDavid, but ACO Cask customers. I've been helping out, strategizing future releases, future bottlings for their products. I've also been strategizing the re-rack schedules. Steve, on the Glenmurray distillery handfills, the Bordeaux cask. Oh, good Lord. Really good choice to get the handfills from Glenmurray. I've been buying those for the last couple of years, and have a few. I think it was the peated port pipe was the one peated port cask that stood out most for me recently. And it's a spirit that I can continue to explore, because it is certainly in the past 2 years, it's been a spirit that we've been fortunate enough to be able to purchase, to lay down in various different wood types for future benchmark releases. You may even see a Glenmurray and a Caskcraft release in a couple of years' time. The supply of that spirit is thankfully going pretty well. So yeah, a really lovely buttery spirit to explore the art of maturation. Every time I talk about Glenmurray on tastings when we're presenting, I always reflect on the fact when you walk in to that distillery. Wonderful tour, by the way. If you're ever in Elgin, go and check it out. But yeah, you walk through the distillery and you just get those wonderful wafts of that sweet barley, honey on toast. It's glorious. Really, really lovely. So yes, that ties in there with what I was up to today. No re-racking of Glenmurray today, but lots of interesting re-racks from casks where the spirit is being disgorged from its original cask spirit, being sent off to the bottling hall, and now that second fill cask has been used for the further maturation of older spirits. And really important consideration in terms of maturation there. Whilst we do apply first fill finishes to older spirits, you do have to be very careful to not overpower the delicacies that have naturally accrued in that, let's say, a refill hogshead over the, let's say, 25 years. There's going to be some wonderful complexities in there that if you go too heavy-handed and fill that spirit, let's say it's a nice light Glenkeith, let's say, if you're filling that into casks that are too overpowering, you're going to start losing complexity in there. So the use of these second fill casks, we were, as I say, for a customer, re-racking some second fill Madeiras with some nice old Tormore, which I'm always curious to see the progression of Tormore, because it is one of those quirky spirit styles, which is interesting to watch in different cask types. And well, actually, I think I'm right in saying that we will be showing one of our older Tormore styles. I think it's Tormore 95 that we're taking along to the Edinburgh Fringe Whisky Festival in a couple of weeks' time. I think that's on the Friday the 18th of August. So if you've got a ticket for that show, you're in for an absolute treat, because we've got a nice selection of, I think, about 10 different whiskies on the table. The Tormore being our half-time dram. We've also got the highlight of the 35-year-old Strathclyde, wonderful whiskey. That one finished in the rye whiskey cask from Coval Distillery, I seem to recall. And of course, we've got our benchmark UK exclusives coming along. So if you've not tried those, really curious to see what folks in the room think of the quirky 7-year-old Blair Athol that spent most of its life in that tawny port wine barrique, really bonkers style of whiskey. Whereas, of course, got the 14-year-old Glen Tuckers in Oloroso, and the 5-year-old Kailila in Madeira, along with the latest batch of Caskcraft. So a real exploration of cask whiskey maturation, a real roller coaster of flavour. So yeah, if you're coming to the Fringe, come and say hello. We've got what have we got? 5 people coming from the team. So if you're bored sick to death of my whiskey chit chat, you've got 4 other people to chat with. So not to worry about that. Other events, what have we got? I will be my first ever trip to the Artisan restaurant. I think that tasting is on the 23rd of August, I want to say. I think it is Wednesday, the 23rd of August. So there's one to keep an eye out for. The lineup is yet to be confirmed. Derek did send me a message this afternoon, but I was completely wrapped up with re-racks. So Derek, tomorrow, I promise you, we'll get to the lineup and we can start advertising and confirming the event. That'll be tremendous. So yeah, I've touched upon re-racks. I've touched upon the blended malt, I should say. I'd love to know what you guys at home make of blended malt Scotch whiskies. Obviously, we've been bottling small batches of interesting, unusual compositions of malt, unusual maturations within our vatting series. For a few years now, we've been doing different iterations of the Speyside. Of course, we've had the peat side in the blended malt as well. I mean, if you go way back, you might remember the Coinish, and the likes of the Ray Seamus, which, if you're a fan of the Ray Seamus, there's something coming a little bit later this year, which might be of interest to you. The Ray Seamus was named. It was a name that myself and Edward, our managing director, came up with back in, I guess it would have been back in 2015 when we relaunched the brand. And it was Ray Seamus is Gaelic for King James. Now, we weren't referring to the monarchy of the UK with the name of that whiskey. We're actually referring to a different king, a king of whiskey, a king of drams, a king of maturation, and a legend of Murray McDavid. And that man, of course, is Jim McEwen, who, if you're not familiar, been in the whiskey industry for decades and decades. Absolute icon of Islay, worked at many of the distilleries there, and retired about 50 times, I believe. Pure passion for the Scotch whiskey industry, and that clearly shows with every project that Jim has been a part of. But during his time with Murray McDavid, he would have once been in the role that I am in, as in head of whiskey, master blender for the company. So he would have been strategizing future releases for Murray McDavid, laying particular single malts down in particular cask types, but also blending as well. And when Remy Cointreau came to purchase Bruichladdich Distillery, ACO Limited, of course, stepped in to buy the parcel of casks that Jim and the team had laid down. Because remember, those casks, a parcel of around 400, 450 casks, different styles of single malt, different cask finishes, different ages. It didn't really fit the Remy kind of strategy of releasing whiskey. Those kind of quantities as well, Remy would be bottling those, in an afternoon. So it didn't really make sense for those guys to keep hold of those casks. So ACO step in, they buy the casks, and within the parcel of casks were these casks labeled Jim's Blend. So we were in a phase back in the early days of the new era of Murray McDavid, where we naively thought, oh yeah, let's create some interesting blends with interesting stories with Gaelic names. But we soon came to really find out and learn that our product that we were selling to the likes of the Netherlands, Germany, Hong Kong, China, Japan, Australia, further afield across Europe, the Gaelic names were very difficult to explain and understand for people browsing the whiskey shelves. What the hell is a bottle of Coinish? For a small, undeveloped, independent whiskey bottler, we were probably biting off more than we could chew at that point. So yes, we turned those casks of Jim's Blend into Ray Seamus. We also had Ray Seamus 2, which was simply the introduction of grain whiskey into those blended malts. But we have one of the last casks of Jim's Blend, which had been maturing at Colburn. Over the past couple of months, I've been experimenting with introducing other styles of malt characteristic to this particular body of spirit that was Jim's Blend. It had been maturing in a red wine cask, and it had been maturing in that red wine cask for quite some considerable time. So there was lots of influence, let's say. So my job has been to, it's kind of a lovely story, marrying the generations of Murray McDavid's head of whiskies into creating this connection, this coming together of whiskey ethos into the glass. So that will be launching later on this year, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing how that gets received, and generally seeing how you guys think of blended malt whiskies, because there seems to be, I don't know if it's me just looking out for them now that I'm doing more blended malt projects, but I seem to be seeing more and more blended malt whiskies being released by other companies, which is a curious move. For me, it's a very exciting move, because, you know, it is, of course, wonderful to be working with so much single malt, of various different origins, different cask type, different ages, and, you know, being the director of flavor of those single malts maturing in particular cask types and particular ages, you know, there is only a certain amount of input or flavor guidance that I can give that single malt, whereas a blend, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, it is the old cliche of that symphony of flavor, you know, being the orchestra with so many different instruments of different spirit types, different cask influences, and different ages. You can create a dram which hopefully has a very distinct character of its own. And I'm going to be so interested to see if the whiskey, the tasting panel on Matthias tastings in Germany. I think before I got onto the live stream this evening, I think I saw an invite to Germany early in 2024. I will look at that later this evening, with the dram I have in hand, and I'll have to get back to you on that. Absolutely love Germany. Have I been this year? I'm not too sure, but I am off to the Netherlands in November, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that, absolutely. But yeah, blended malts, hot topic for me at the moment. Really interested to see or hear from you guys, if you dabble in blended malts. What do you think? Are there any particular blended malts out there that tickle your fancy or pique your interests at the moment? Or even better, if you've enjoyed any of Murray McDavid's blended malts historically. Anything from the vatting series in the orange tins, orange cartons. That is our blended malt series. But more to be revealed on the dram in hand in the coming weeks and months. So what else has been going on? I have had a haircut, miraculously. Extraordinary. I mean, I'm pretty terrible for keeping it trim. But for you guys this week, I thought I would make the cut. Richard Branch, if you're out there streaming this evening, thanks for coming to visit us up at Colburn. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, of course, but you had the wonderful Stephen Main, I should say, or Disco Dave. I hope you got to see the dance moves. Yeah, no, great to have you along. Really glad to hear that you particularly enjoyed the 1987 Invergordon. Bit of a dream dram, that one. A Village tasting. So yeah, straight from the cask, 1987 Invergordon. Delicious. If anybody else at home wants to book themselves in for any kind of tour, whether it's a Village tasting, getting dram straight from the cask, or whether it's even a blending workshop or a standard tour, all you need to do is just give us a message and we can organize something for you. Not a problem. We're just south of Elgin, so you know, we're not too far remote. So yeah, if you're up in the north of Speyside this time of year, absolutely cracking. The other weekend up in Lossiemouth, air show, sun was out. I might even actually still have a little bit of my tan from that weekend on the beach. Absolutely tremendous time of year to go up there and see the sunsets over the bays. Wonderful. Vic, oh, of course, Vic, in the rain at Lossiemouth getting an ice cream. All right, okay. Pure contradiction of the dream that I've just sold. But there is ice cream. So not all doom and gloom. Well, hopefully, oh, it's depressing, that rain, isn't it? And we could have won the Ashes, damn it. Think about that. But anyway, we won't get too far into that. Another big thing that I'm working on, which we don't really talk about too much on our social media. So a nice little insight for you guys is our intensive care program. So that's not intensive care of staff accidents within the warehouse or in the office. There's only so many accidents that you can have on Excel, I guess. You know, not a lot going on. That will put the health and safety inspectors to too much concern. However, me as head of Whisky Creations and the guys up at Colburn, up at Brackla, we are the health and safety inspectors of our cask whiskies. And, you know, at the moment, I'm more of the overseer. So I will be constantly, I mean, it's a daily exercise really of monitoring our big old database of casks. You know, within active kind of Murray McDavid casks, we're probably looking, you know, let's just say it's quite a few thousand casks that are currently sitting in Murray McDavid's allocation. Then we have ACO general stocks and customer stocks as well, all totaling soon to be potentially nearly 45 to 50,000 casks. A lot of which are younger casks, of course, and we do have the older stocks. Now, a cask of whiskey can fall into our intensive care program by a couple of categorizations. So if a whiskey is from a particularly esteemed provenance, let's say, you know, the Clynelish, the Springbank, the Macallans, you know, those kind of, the Lafroigs, the Bowmores, those kind of whiskies, distilleries, if we're reaching, you know, 21 year plus, not necessarily on the intensive care, but those are kind of in the crown jewel zones that will be monitored more frequently than, let's say, let's say a Glen Elgin, which is 8 years old. You know, there's a different kind of, you know, a different treatment of those casks due to the nature of the distillate itself. However, you know, that you know, whether it be a Glenlossie, Glen Elgin, or something a little bit more abundant in the brokering industry or in the independent bottler sector, that could fall into the intensive care program. And here's how. So as we receive those casks into our warehouses, those spirits are generally supplied to us in refill bourbon hogsheads. Recouped hogsheads made up from American oak staves. Great for holding liquid, but in terms of developing flavor and character in a short period of time, not so great. You would have heard me speak about it many times on whiskey tastings historically. So in true Murray McDavid form, in true Murray McDavid fashion, we'll transfer that single malt from its original refill holding cask into a finishing cask. For core ranges, those finishing casks will be strictly first fill casks. For the likes of our Caskcraft release, we're combining first and second fill casks. So let's say Glenlossie. Caskcraft, let's say generally those whiskies coming together, we might be looking at whiskies that are 4 to 8 years of age, different ratios within there. But if it's a, let's say, 5-year-old single malt from Glenlossie, if we're looking to re-rack 10 hogsheads of 5-year-old Glenlossie into first fill Madeira, now it's going to be, well, I'll be quite frank, it's not going to mathematically fit perfectly from the total litres of alcohol that you have from the original 10 hogsheads to fill into, let's say, you're going to get 12, maybe 12, 13 full casks and a little bit of remnants. So you're going to fill all of those casks and you're going to have a little bit left over. Now, what do we do with that leftover little bit of liquid? That little parcel will be sometimes, depending on the fill of that remnants, or I should say, depending on the quantity of that remnants, we might temporarily fill that into a small Koval cask, because there might be another parcel of 5-year-old Glenlossie that we might be filling later in the year into first fill PX or something. So when I'm coming to re-rack the Glenlossie into PX later in the year, I'll look on the intensive care cask list and see if there's any 5-year-old Glenlossie remnants that we can use in that operation to hopefully fill a cask. That's a little chapter of the intensive care list. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Don't you worry, guys. I'll be wrapping up shortly. If you have any questions about the intensive care cask list, do shout away, because I'm conscious that I've been rambling at you for nearly 35 minutes now. So, age and origin. We have low fill casks, and sometimes low fill casks, of course, can be created by older spirit. Quite simply, those angels will be taking their share. Notice I didn't say fair share. We're still trying to figure out what that fair share is. It doesn't seem too fair to me, especially if you're talking about seriously old spirit. They take more than their fair share. But their share will only ever increase if you allow your spirit, your old spirit, to reduce so much that you're below that 50%. I mean, maybe even slightly lower. You know, the lower the spirit is within a cask, the more rapid increase on the losses that you're going to experience. So what we often do to prevent excessive losses, there's a few options. Of course, option A, you can do the easy thing. You can bottle it. Simple. Bottle the spirit. No fuss. No future losses. However, we're looking to always further the developments. Oh no, Sean, you're asking. We're going to be here all night. We're going to be here all night with that dreaded question. I'll get onto it very quickly after this point. But yeah, with older spirits that are starting to get a little bit low in cask, what I like to personally do is try and consolidate if we have sister casks. So if we have those sister casks of, let's say, I think I've mentioned it before tonight, but an old Glenkeith, 1993 Glenkeith, I think, is a particular example on our website on our stock list, that you know, over the years it has started. Or Braes of Glenlivet is a very good example, actually. Keep an eye out for that in a couple of years to come, because that's really on the sharp end of the intensive care list. Low spirit fill in the cask, and it's getting to that danger zone of low strength. Anything below of a certain age, anything below 44%, that's when we sound the alarm, and we make a kind of end of life preparation. Essentially, we strategize exactly when that whiskey is going to be bottled, and in some cases, depending on the spirit, we'll be monitoring the strength every couple of months, because you start to there's a little bit of a squeaky bum time when you're dealing with 30-year-old plus single malts from let's say popular distilleries. That's the cardinal sin in a whiskey maturation warehouse, letting one of those old valuable, delicious, rare spirits fall below that strength. Now, we have had historically some blends that we've brought in that were provided to us at around 45%. And these, I assume, would have been remnant spirits from bottling projects from the likes of Edrington or whoever it may have been, that would have been sold on to brokers. But there was one particular batch cask, sherry butt, which did fall below strength. It fell to, I think it was about 38%. And this was something that we have really tried to remedy over the years, because when we were first managing so much stock, a lot of that stock was in third-party warehouse, which I think I can hear some of you sniggering at home with the realities of trying to manage stock in a third-party warehouse, because you just don't have visibility, access to the stock in the way that you would want, especially if you're working with older spirits. As I say, you can be a little bit more forgiving with younger spirits, but we still see excessive losses from some of those warehouses with spirits that are younger than 10 years of age. So always better. We're in such a fortunate position to have such vast warehousing capabilities, be it at Colburn, at Royal Brackler, and some others coming online soon. But yeah, managing our stocks has certainly helped us prevent such further excess losses. But for the blend that fell below that 40%, you would have actually seen it in a batch of Colts of Islay. One of our old bottlings of Colts of Islay was actually topped up with grain whiskey. I want to say it was even North British or Invergordon. I think this was back in 2018, so it is a little while ago. But it was either North British or Invergordon. I want to say it's North British, actually. 1989 North British that was topped up with that Beaumont and Lafroig blend. And yeah, of course, that brought the strength back up. I want to say, actually, we might have even bottled that at 50%. Possibly. I'll have to go back and check the archives on that one. But yeah, grain being distilled to such a high degree, and those casks of North British or Invergordon were clearly in wood that was very, very structurally sound, and losses were minimal. So that kept the strength right up there. And helps us to bottle that spirit in above that 40% mark, as they say. and we'll have to grab a dram sometime, and I can tell you some more. Actually, I might wait and maybe we'll do a Halloween special. How about that? I can tell you some real horror stories from the Whiskey Warehouse. There's probably a wrinkle for each one, I would say. I don't think I've missed too much out on what we've been up to. I should also mention this week I have been chatting more than I have to you this evening. I've been recording a whiskey podcast. Wonderful new whiskey podcast, which I can't say too much about, but we'll be certainly launching more information about where you can go and listen to that, which podcast I feature on. I'll tell you more about it soon. Can't forget my whiskey. Disappointed, folks. I haven't seen a single person sipping along this evening. No dram suggestions. I always like to see what people are drinking, because as part of my job, I like to select whiskies that people are kind of feeling at that particular point of time. It's always good to get a finger on the pulse. That's why I love going to whiskey festivals, is, seeing the trends in the room, seeing what people are really enjoying. So yeah, maybe in the comments after, feel free to type away. Let us know what you're dramming. As I say, I've got a secret blend here, which won't be so secret in a couple of weeks/months, depending on how the tasting panel assess the spirit. Helen, absolute angel. The UK release, the 7-year-old Blair Athol. Wonderful. Yeah, cool, quirky dram to be enjoying on a, don't know where you are, but it's gloomy down in Gloucestershire. Actually, there's a little bit of blue sky over there, but, crikey. The Dal Ewan, oh my lord, now you guys are really teasing. The Dal Ewan 25 Coval bourbon. As I said, I probably told the story before, but there is still that place within the warehouse where that cask used to be. Every time I walk in the warehouse, and see it's not holding that position at the back of the warehouse number 2 up the top. That's it. There's a hole that still remains there, but I'm glad the whiskey's in your glass, and I'm glad you're enjoying it, because that's what it's all about. So ladies and gents, that's enough rambling from me. Liv's probably in the background pulling her hair out, because she's off on holiday tomorrow afternoon, off to Greece, I think. Hopefully you'll get more sunshine than you will in the UK, and hopefully it's still there, which I'm sure it will be. Hopefully it's cooled down for you, and you get to try and discover, bring us back a Greek whiskey. There's a challenge for you. Bring back some something interesting for the Whiskey Creations team. Folks, thanks very much for dramming along. Thanks very much for listening, and I will see you next week, where I'll be beaming in from somewhere slightly different than my living room. Folks, thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up again soon. Cheers, folks.